Hamill is known as the voice of the Joker on the Batman animated series. No, not that Batman series. He's also known for another role in the past that you might be familiar with. Is that a hint or what? And here's what he had to say about the art and science of collecting.
I started out collecting books that I remembered having as a kid. That specific Dennis the Menace comic. Some of my favorites were from the EC Company in the 1950s, and they did things like Weird Science with these cool monster covers. And ones that really got them into trouble with the Comics Code Authority were their horror comics, like Crypt of Terror. It just represents a part of American history where everyone was very paranoid and wanting to regulate what we see and hear and think. Kind of like 1996, come to think of it. Here's one that really drove the teachers crazy. This one looks exactly like a composition book, so you could smuggle it into class. Here was a special issue, 324 pages for 50 cents. Can you imagine that? Look at that. It's like a small phone book. One of my most valuable books is the first appearance of Batman, which is Detective 27. They tried him out in one story, and he became so popular about a year later he got his own title, Batman 1, and that's in really good condition. This thing gets so stratospheric in terms of price, and the whole idea back when I started collecting 20 years ago was you could pick them up for 50 cents to $1. I bet you Steven Spielberg has books that he can't get or he wants. And that's why I'm ditching comic book collecting. It's just too much. Anything comic book related, well preserved, will go up.
We have a collector extraordinaire by the name of Bob Burns. And here's what he had to say about his stuff.
Yay! How did you start collecting movie props?
I went to school with the kid. His dad made all these props for movies, and he had this cane head from the Wolfman, which I just love because I love horror films. And he just gave it to me one day and said, "Oh, here you can have it." And I think subconsciously had started my quest for like saving these props and stuff, because these things are like Rembrandts to me. These are works of art that people should be able to see. Jack Pierce, who did the Frankenstein monster, the Wolfman, the Mummy, all of those great films. This is a mummy's curse face that Lon Chaney Jr. wore in the film. This is the only remaining piece of Jack's work that exists today. It's in latex rubber, and he gave it to me in 1962. Hey, this is cool. I like this.
Are these all your toys?
These are all my toys. Most of them, the old ones go back to when I was like 5, 6 years old. One of the very earliest is this helmet right here. I got that when I was 5 years old, and I used to wear that to bed at night. This is the actual original time machine from the film itself.
See you yesterday.
In LA, the elite meet to gather their collectible loot at one place. Puzzle Zoo.
All right, I'm back in Santa Monica at the Puzzle Zoo, and I'm talking to
Alan Saffron. I'm the president, and I'm the partner with Jay, and we started Puzzle Zoo.
Now, why did you start Puzzle Zoo?
Well, actually, I wanted to come up with a unique kind of toy store. And what we started with was puzzles, science fiction, action figures, and collectibles. In '94, we were awarded the #1 toy store in the United States. 40% of our clientele is kids, directly kids, who drag their parents in here. I got to get this action figure, I got to get this toy. Shopping. We had a huge party in Halloween, just passed, and it was hosted by Candice Bergen and Steven Seagal, and we had Oliver Stone, and these are all people who have shopped here. Kurt Russell is at the moment really interested in buying this snake from Escape from New York. As you know, he's now filming Escape from LA. So he's asked me to hold this for him, not sell it to him if anyone wants it. And I have one Japanese customer who comes in about once every 2 or 3 months, and he routinely buys anything between 50 to 70 built models at a time.
Do you collect anything? I mean, being around all this, I mean, I'd have half the stuff in my bedroom.
Well, I don't so much collect this, but I do collect the other side of our business, which is puzzles. I have one of the largest collections of puzzles in the United States. I have about 3,000 puzzles.
Now, Alan, you must have a favorite thing in the store.
I have Rick Overton's work over
Let's
here,
go over.
which I think is incredible. He's designed the thing. This is all scratch-built models from his own script and his own hope-to-be upcoming movie. And it's a science fiction, come Jules Verne style of movie. And look at the work and the intricacy on these models. I mean, it's just
Looks total Terry Gilliam.
yeah, exactly. And it's all scratch-built. There is no model. All he has to do is take this to the studio and sit this on the table. This is my idea.
Yeah.
Look at this. This is a work over 6 or 7 years.
Unbelievable. Well, thank you very much, Alan. Alan at the Puzzle Zoo.
Thank
Come
you very
down to
much.
Santa Monica. This is the place.
And now it's time for another anti-gravitational poll. Yeah. And we want to know, what's your most valuable collectible?
Probably the most valuable item that I own, it would be Giant Size X-Men #1. I've had it for a really long time, and it's kind of worn out and dog-eared, but it's still the most valuable thing that I own.
The thing I'm collecting most is Star Wars, all the action figures, posters, comic books. And I've been collecting it for 15 years now. And I'd say my most valuable piece is a little Jawa with a vinyl cape still inside the package. That can go from $400 to $1,000 depending on the crazy collector who wants to buy it from you.
Yeah, I collect resin kits, I collect comics, I collect, you name it, I collect it. But if I had to pick something most valuable out of all my collection, it would probably be my #1 Iron Man comic book. It means a lot to me. Paid around $500 for it. It really isn't worth that much, but to me, it's worth it.
Hi, my name is Daniel Clowes, and I do 8-ball comics, and we're here in my tiny museum-like room where I have all my various lifelong collections. These are my gigantic collection of bad records, which I buy only for the covers mostly. Things like this woman's hairdo. Here we have these little toys. It's Alfred E. Newman doll that I painted myself and decreased the value by hundreds of dollars. My parents would have hated them. I think that's why I like them. Things like this, you never know when you're going to find something like this. I mean, I would pay any price for this guy. This is a Fredericks of Hollywood catalog from, I think, 1965, 1962 maybe. Stuff like this is great to steal ideas from, you know, women with pointy bras, things like that. Then over here, a spinner rack with some of my paperbacks. Again, just for the cover artwork. I've only probably read 5 of them.
After this, we roll on with comic reviews from Nick, game reviews from Phil, and how to convince that kid at the comic store that your Iron Man comic with a mustache drawn on it is still in mint condition.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Comicopia, my weekly review of comic books. This week we're checking out collectibles in comic books. So first, for a future collectible, here is Tomo Arigato Mr. Roboto. It's Tomo #0, folks. This issue dives further into the past of this character who made her debut in She. We see Tomo train in a martial arts dojo and get in gear for an all-out battle for blood. I like this artist, Amanda Connor, and I look forward to more of her work. The books following this cast of characters created by Bill Tucci have proved to be very collectible and rare. So get this and hang on, because everyone needs something to pay the rent with. This week I was introduced to a great book called Hellboy, the Corpse, and the Iron Shoes. This follows the adventures of the foul-mouthed, quick-witted beast they call Hellboy. This time he must find a place to bury one of the undead. It's a lot harder than it sounds. Trust me, I know. Great book. 4.5 out of 5 Gs on the anti-gravity scale. Now that you've seen something that's collectible that you can get today, try checking out something that's been collectible for 30 years. Green Hornet #1 is one of the many highly collectible gold key books of the late 60s. Right now it holds a value of $35, but with the new Green Hornet movie coming out, it's bound to skyrocket. This issue features a photo cover of, get this, Bruce Lee. Now this little bit in comic history is a rare find, and I give it 3 Gs on the anti-gravity scale. Next up, no, it's the Simpsons comics, #16. In this issue, the gruesome twosome, Patty and Selma, lose their jobs at the DMV and their home. When forced to move in with the Simpsons, they wreak havoc on Bart, Lisa, Maggie, Homer, and Marge. This installment in the series includes a kooky bongo grab bag comic that takes a look at the day in the life of Bumblebee Man, plus a contest, redesign Radioactive Man's head. I got mine. Now, the Simpsons are my fave, but I think they lose something in comic form. Needless to say, it still gets 3.5 Gs on the anti-gravity scale. Well, I guess that's about it for Comicopia this week. See you next time. All right, this week's game review is Destruction Derby. For which format? Sony PlayStation. Now listen to this, it's made by Psygnosis, this game. And when you saw on the sampler disc, it looked great. You were smashing cars, the car gets dented. Now when I first popped in the real game, we realized, me and my friends, it was kind of hard to play, hard to control, and it really puts you off the game right at first. But I did have a day where I got to play it and play it and play it, and the more I got used to it, and the more I got used to manipulating the controls, the more I loved this game. There are 4 modes of play. There's time trials, which is basically time trials. There's wrecking racing, where you're racing and as well getting extra points for hitting other cars. There's also Destruction Derby, which is a lot of fun. It's a huge oval, and basically it's gladiators, but you're in a car, and you get a certain amount of points for smashing the other cars. If you make God do 360, you get 10 points. If you hit his fender, you get a certain amount of points. All you have to do with this game, I'm telling you, sit down, learn the controls, and really with any game, sit down, learn the controls, and learn to manipulate whatever it is you're driving or using, because once you get the hang of that, the game starts to really show itself in its like true form. I'm telling you, I give it a 4 out of 5 on the anti-gravity scale because it's a great game, but stick with it, sit with it, and learn the controls. Oh.
No food, no water. What comics would you like on a desert island?
I would take the complete collected Will Eisner, the complete collected Miss Fury, and the complete collected Brenda Starr.
In this materialistic culture, inevitably I found myself to be a collector, but almost by accident. I end up collecting objects because they're of interest to me. I find inspiration for some of my work, or by juxtaposing these objects I've collected, they generate ideas for me. And I never really know what's going to catch my eye. It's not really a question of rarity. It's more the desirability of the image or the idea that an object might represent. So this stuff just piles up, but you never can tell when something might be an inspiration. A porcelain Japanese couple seated has an entirely different meaning when you begin to replace their heads. It's a wonderful world of recycling here.
Next up, we take a look at collectors, and we get a peek at Ted Shackelford's Sailor Moon dolls. Woo-hoo-hoo!
Many really great collections are discovered by accident. We found one old warehouse in Winnipeg that turned out to have a huge lost treasure trove. And it wasn't even guarded by Aztecs with dart guns or anything.
Standing on the 6th floor of a building. It's approximately 6,000 square feet, and it's stacked from head to toe with everything from pocketbooks, comics, magazines, toys, records, the whole shebang in the collector's world. I'm in one of the alleyways, and we have $1 million+ comics worth $1 million+ dollars. I would say we probably have the most of Marvel comics, We have anywhere from the 1960s on up through the 90s. DC would be second. We have as well a collection of those from the 40s on up through the 60s and 70s and 80s. Other companies that we have include Dennis the Menace, Walt Disney, Uncle Scrooge, Donald Duck, Charlton Comics, we printed Hanna-Barbera mostly, and old Dell Comics, Roy Rogers, Lone Ranger, lots of TV stuff like Mission Impossible. People send us lists through the mail of things that they want. This, for instance, is a guy from New Jersey, and he's looking for Dennis the Menace comics. The earliest number here I have is number 14. It's from the 50s. I'm sure he'll be happy to get that. When I first started up here, in this particular warehouse was about 5 years ago, and I remember everything was unorganized, nothing was really sorted, couldn't find anything. I remember standing in the middle of the warehouse, scratching my head and thinking, where do I start on this mess?
Ultimately, comic books should be stored in where you store all your secrets, in a dark, cool place. The Bruce Peck way of storing comics is vertically inside boxes. However, there are other ways to do it, and this is one way that is really interesting for me, and that's to store them in these binders. Inside each of these plastic coverings, there's a comic that's also enclosed in plastic, and these are stored upright and inside a binder, which is a cabinet which is all closed. Well, these are my cabinets. I keep the comics inside plastic, the plastic inside the binders, and the binders inside the cabinet. So everything is shut up nice and neat for added protection. My Fort Knox. Because I have so many comics, I need to keep track of them. And what I do is I have a database of comics, and what I can look at is I can look at the title and the issue numbers and the location inside this report, and I can find out exactly where the comic is.
After this, we answer emails, and you can find out where to write to us. And you know what? Here's a hint for email users. Make sure you type in all the T's in anti-gravity.
Welcome to the Dominion.
It's mostly stuff like hair straighteners and skin lighteners, stuff intended for people of color, but beautiful packaging. I collect anything that visually I find is sort of strong. Jeez, good Lord. But here is my collection of old 78s. See what we have at random. I'll just pull one out, and hopefully it's impressive. Mountain City Blues, Clarence Williams Orchestra. It's decent, but nothing to write home about. I always thought Crumb's brother Charles was a better artist than him. You know, he drew this when he was a kid, and he drew that Harpo Marx cover there. He had a really strong style. Robert owed me some artwork because I'd given him some records in the early 80s, and I actually wanted a Kandinsky, but since that was never going to happen, I asked him to do his imitation of a Kandinsky. It's no Picasso, but I can't really complain about the price either, so.
Here's some of our enormous whack load of email. Now, we'd love to respond to it all, but we get tons of the stuff. We do read it all, though, and we pick a couple per week to read on the air. Now, I have one here from Philip Leverett and Joseph Masong, who write, I've noticed that the New Men and the X-Men are very similar. Bird is like Archangel, Bishop is like Pilot, New Force and New Man are like X-Force and X-Men. Yeah, okay, I have to disagree, because Proctor is really, really hairy, and Professor X is really bald. What more difference do you need?
And this one's from Bill Martin, who writes, why do you guys only read the insulting, strange, or really silly letters? It puzzles me so. I couldn't come up with a reasonable explanation for it on my own, so please tell me why. And P.S., more Batman. Well, Bill, it's all right if I call you Bill, isn't it? The answer is that those letters provide more fun for the writers. We enjoy coming up with the cheesy replies that I have to deliver. And if we answered all the mail that just said, I love your show, we'd have to do a 2-hour variety special. And as for Batman, we'll see. That looks good. Cut, print.
And for this week's poll, here's your topic.
Rock and roll in comics. What band ought to be heroes in a comic book, and what comic book characters should form a band?
You can call or you can email us at antigravity@ytv.ca or write to us at the Anti-Gravity Room, care of YTV Canada, 64 Jefferson Avenue, Unit 18, Toronto, Canada, M6K 3H3. And our webpage is at www.antigrav.com.
So join us next time when we look at comics that aren't necessarily superheroes. From dinosaurs to Too Much Coffee Man, these comics cover it all. So it seems like these collectors all know what they want, and they collect it. But what if you don't know?
Well, you can look at market trends, or you can consult a computer. They say you can make a lot of money collecting old Tupperware. I don't think so. You better collect what you like. And we'll see you next time on The Anti-Gravity Room!
It's classic, it's comic, it's 5 nights of spine-tingling fright and rib-tickling fun. Comedian Dana Gould hosts Sci-Fi Channel's Big Scary Movie Show, beginning tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern with Bela Lugosi in Dracula. It can't be bargained with. It can't feel pity. It has no fear. It will not stop until you are dead. Arnold Schwarzenegger stars in the sci-fi action classic, The Terminator, tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, Sci-Fi Saturday.